Hello, Jason. I'm delighted to be chatting with you. Myself and Steve, a fellow ex-regular soldier here, plus Emma Bruce, author of the fabulous Pink Club series of books.
Hi
Good
guys,
to
and thanks for the invite, much appreciated.
yeah, good to finally speak to you, Jason. And you're in Cyprus, I believe. So are you still near a British barracks or anywhere like that, or are you touristy type?
I'm,
I've never got
yeah,
to Cyprus in my
I'm
on
well
my
away
career.
from the
So
barracks. Yeah, yeah. So I'm in the hills above Paphos in an undisclosed location.
Ooh, it's like a
A
proper
bunker?
James Bond.
away from as many people as I can. It's lovely and quiet up here. I love it up here. You know, it's nice and cool, but I've still got my fan on. I'm sure Emma's got her fan on wherever she is as well.
Yeah,
You guys
she's
have probably got your
going.
heaters on in the UK. Yeah, yeah. So it's
yeah,
really
that's
nice and
all
quiet
right.
up here. Yeah, it's a great place to chill out and think and write, do you know what I mean? No, and do my thing from. I play a lot of golf over here, so it's really nice.
So what made you sign up to the forces in the first place anyway? As a young, well, I did. I joined straight from school. Were you similar to that?
Exactly the same, yeah. So I joined as like a boy soldier, like a junior leader in the
Yeah.
light infantry. I think, you know, my dad always had a massive interest in the military, but never joined. I kind of regretted it. My granddad was in the military, and he's one of the first people to even when he left, he got to private security side, you know, after the Second World War. So he's quite a character, even though I didn't know him that well. So the military blood has run through my system. I always wanted to be in it. You know, even as a kid, I'm running around, you know, with two pieces of wood, you know, nailed together. Do you know what I mean? No, shooting people from all over the place. You know, fighting. I was never suited to school. You know, so I think the military was without doubt the best place for me, and certainly ended up in a parachute regiment. It seemed like, you know, the home from home type thing. So in the military, I did, like, you know, 12 years in there, and spent during my time, as you guys will know, Northern Ireland was super active, you know, so I did like 4 tours out there, but nothing else, you know, really come about. And then I got out early and wanted to do some things in the private security side. And obviously, bodyguard kind of was the thing at that time. I worked for, like, you know, John Paul Getty when I first got out. So I was really lucky and got some really nice jobs because they were very, very hard to come by, certainly before 9/11, which today, as you know, is the anniversary. And that kind of changed the whole world. And then I ended up in the first team in Kabul in 2001, looking after the European Commissioner. So that was, in its time, the first real active in a hostile environment bodyguard job as part of a 4-man team looking after him. You can imagine what Kabul was like, you know, in that time. You know, all sorts of issues running around the city, all sorts of threats, you know, to the commissioner, who wanted to get out there and visit as many different people and organizations as possible countrywide, basically giving out money to rebuild the country. So that was a real full-on active bodyguard job. But from there, you know, the bodyguard thing, I kind of played down a little bit. It's great, you know, for saying it on books and like headlines, but really it's more about security operator, consultant, advisor, you know, where, yeah, you're there, you're in that role, but you're very much, you know, thinker rather than, you know, guns and muscles.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to admit, actually, I really enjoyed your book, Long Road to Libya, because having not been in the military myself, I found it very educational and very, very eye-opening. Like you said, with mentions of your time in Ireland and then 9/11, and then, you know, experiences that you had overseas in Kabul and everything. And I just found the book totally gripping, and you sort of lose the fact that this is true life to you. And then you kind of bring yourself back like, oh God, this really happened. Like, this is just insane. Like, how does somebody survive so many sort of like near misses, I wonder? And, you know, what was the impact that had on yourself? Like, when, you know, you come home and you have your downtime, having been in such a high octane, like, situation of like survival.
Yeah, well, you know, if I was to, like, you know, so, you know, it's in the book. I've had 3 wives, so that probably says it all great women, all my problems, you know. So for sure, you know, I'm like, you know, kind of like driven by, you know, the industry, driven by success and chasing, you know, adrenaline junkie, basically, you know. I always wanted to be the first person in every environment, you know. So like when Kabul kicked off, you know, I wanted to be the first person out there. Iraq, Libya is a story, you know, throughout my life. But when it comes to coming home, you know, and settling down and being a steady husband, it goes without saying that that's not that easy. It's not that easy, you know, to one minute, you know, your life is at risk and your actual job is to keep other people alive, but you're in a hostile, environment. So it says what it is on the tin type thing. To jump on a plane and 8 hours later be in a taxi driving home and arrive back at your house with your wife, and you don't want to be a drama queen, you don't want to make it all about yourself, so you don't really talk about what you do out there, to then just to be expecting a few hours to just settle back into home life. Can you take a dog for a walk? Are you going to make some dinner tonight? It's not that easy. And I know myself, and many people like myself, we have failed badly at that. It's a massive learning curve, and we try and do it better, the second, third, maybe myself the fourth time around.
Okay. Jason, apart from your writing, which we'll move on to in detail, hopefully, your website, jasonwoodsauthor.com, you got a tab on there for after dinner speaking. Tell us about this. Do you travel to events for giving these sort of talks?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this part of it, really. So obviously with COVID, a lot of stuff online, like we're doing now. It's really born in COVID, wasn't it? The podcast, online things. So I get asked to do like a lot of chats, like for example, I did one with BAE the other day, where a very similar thing like this, but like private logins for them to use. That goes into the archive. So you do a lot of online stuff. But also you get invited to like some after dinner speaking private events, where it could be any organization having like a soiree, with alcohol mixed in, and they just want someone at the end of the night, to stand up, tell a few stories, ask a few blunt questions to them. What's said in the room stays in the room, basically. All language goes. Just tell us exactly what it's like. And off the record stuff, and they love that. It's like that's really after dinner speaking, and like I say, that always what is said stays in the rooms there for the people. But
like
we
Vegas.
do a lot of online stuff as well. Yeah, it's really enjoyable, And add to that, I've been invited, like last year, Christmas last year, I was invited up to Colchester to go and speak to 2 and 3 Para. So obviously Para's an action book had been released a few months before, the 80th anniversary. So I got a chance to meet like the CO and I asked them a 3 Para first of all on the first day. And they said to me, just basically go up there and speak to the lads for 20 minutes or so on the afternoon before the morning before they stand down, have like a chat by everyone. And I was kind of the guest speaker. Just tell them, what you've done, how you joined Power Edge and what you've done afterwards, and show to them that, it is achievable for them. You don't have to be an officer. You don't have to be an RSM. You can achieve a lot in life if you put your mind to it. That's what they want me to do. So I really enjoyed that sort of thing. And I did like 2 Power a day after. So all sorts of opportunities do come your way, and I'm very happy to travel to these sort of things, and you don't get paid for it. It's just for me, what an honor to go to speak to my own regiment, but 20 years in advance.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, and these stories you tell as well, I mean, it has a real serious nature to it, but I bet you there's some real funny moments as well, isn't there?
Well, for me, it's all about the funny moments. It's all about what goes wrong and the humor between the guys in the crazy moments where we just laugh, because sometimes you just have to laugh at each other. When you got incoming stuff coming in, you got no idea where these rounds are landing. Stuff's exploding around. It sounds great. It sounds like a film, but kind of been involved in it. And all the stuff we used to do in Iraq, where for example, I worked in what we call the red zone. Everyone knows about the green zone, which was pretty benign, really, inside of the safe walls of controlled by the CPA there. But a lot of guys like so we worked in the red zone where you're traveling in and around the locals, and obviously the hostiles there as well, and anything can go wrong at any moment. So you just got to have a good sense of humor and laugh your way through it, or else you won't mentally get through these situations.
So also on your website, you've got some great endorsements from fellow ex-service veterans. Some of them are now writers and have become celebrities pretty much, haven't they? Best-selling writers, Damien Lewis, Des Powell, co-authors of Bravo 30, is it this time around? I get them all mixed up myself.
That's right, yeah.
Is that a close community then, or are you in contact with each other anyway? Or is that a writers-like community or something like that?
I wouldn't say it was a writer's community, but obviously to be successful as a writer, but even just to have a chance, and then would tell you, it really helps to know the right people. So I always heard, going back years, when I've always loved reading like autobiographies, and books on the forces. So I always heard what a good guy Damien Lewis was by many of my peers. I've never heard a bad word about him. I heard he had a real time for the guy. So I reached out to him And sure enough, as of form, he comes back to me saying, Jason, great to hear you. Sounds like a great book. Send me some of it, and I'll read it. Gave me a bit of advice, pushed me in the right direction for an agent, done endorsement and forward. So he became a friend, and he introduced me to a few others like Des. Des was writing with him too. Des had approached him. So Damien, really, I cannot speak highly enough about Damien Lewis as a person and his skills as a writer. So he really opened up a little network for me. And then there's people like Big Phil Campion, who was I was lucky enough to have him as my partner in Kabul in 2001, bit of an SAS legend, and he's right out there now on the social media. And then like Ollie Ollerton from SAS Who Dares Win, he was my partner in Iraq. So, and they've all gone and done so well and written books as well. So we all helped each other, So I have a small network of them. I certainly don't know everybody. And it's not like a big WhatsApp group of authors, but it's great to know a few, As Emma would tell you, if you know a few authors, kind of help each other out.
Yeah, it is definitely who you know in the industry. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily what you know. And you had some crazy experiences where like I knew nobody, and then a friend of mine who actually is a military author himself, Duncan Faulkner. I was really struggling to get an editor, and I was having a really bad time trying to get my first book published. And he introduced me to a woman called Barry Evans. So I Googled her before I had this phone call because she lives in the States, and it blew my mind. And I was sort of like, shouldn't have done that. Because now I've got this 2-hour conversation with a professional of like a very high level in the film side of things and everything. And I was like, I need to put that away and just be a sponge and absorb everything she's given me. So it was amazing over that 2-hour conversation. And we're still connected now. She's really lovely, very down to earth. And Duncan said, I won't let a manuscript or a screenplay go until she's looked at it first. So I was like, this was like massive for me. And she did give me a discount as well with the amount that I paid her, because we did have Duncan as a friend acquaintance. But yeah, that really helped actually. And then everything just clicked into place. Then I was able to finish Pink Club, and then it got published, and it got me over sort of like quite a big hurdle because I'd been like ripped off and knocked my confidence down. And it was just that connection. I suddenly, when I said to Duncan, like, do you know anyone? I was like, why did I ask that? Because they'll cost a fortune to like talk to anyone because of his background. And it actually worked out really well. So it was just a bit of luck and a bit of, well, I don't know if it was confidence from myself, just like putting myself out there and saying, oh, do you know anyone? And then thinking, oh God, he won't. It'll be like just like pound signs. And then it was serendipitous that the woman that ripped me off in the UK, she did refund me. I had to fight tooth and nail to get that money back, but it was almost to the penny the same amount that Barry had quoted me. So I was able to get that refund and work with Barry. And then like the rest is history now.
Is this for editing service?
Yeah, it was for editing. And the woman in the UK, she was like jack of all trades, master of none. She handed my manuscript to a masseuse, as she made out she had this big editing team and she just had nobody. And they just mashed it to bits, gave it back to me saying it's all finished. And I looked at it and I was like, I've just picked out 15 mistakes and I'm up to chapter 7. And then it just all unraveled, and all the lies unraveled for this woman, and she didn't have a leg to stand on. So she made the wise move and gave me back my money, and I just took it and went away quietly. But I'm
that's a good story. But it just shows it's all about who you know, not what you know in this industry. I mean, writing is a tough industry. Of all the things I've tried my hand at and will continue to try different things. I love a challenge in life. Writing is without doubt the hardest, and there's 2 parts of it. The writing itself, but that's probably actually the easier part. Is then to get a book published and to get it out there. It's unbelievable minefield, especially when you don't come from that industry, and you've got to kind of navigate your way through this minefield. I should say at this point that I was very lucky, and the whole thing for me came about a chance meeting here in Cyprus with a lady called Sian N. Williams. That's her writer name, and she's a professional editor. She's my friend's wife. And she's an author in her own right, and she's helped with all my books. She's done all my editing. She writes with me. She steers me in the right direction. She's been, a huge help. Without her, it would never go off the ground at all.
Okay. Should we go through all the books? Have you've read a couple of the books, haven't you? I think.
Yeah, I read Long Road to Libya and I've read Countdown, and Countdown's brilliant. It's fiction, but it's just, I could not put that book down. And I really liked the ending. It was just nail biting. I found myself like, oh God, it could go any way, the ending. And I was like, please let it go the nice way. But yeah, I really recommend it if you like action stories that, you know, keep you up at night turning the pages. That just, Countdown's brilliant. It's really, really good. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, you know, Countdown was the second book, you know, and we'll come back to Long Road to Libya in a minute, kind of, which is my autobiography, my life story. But Countdown, yeah, is very much like my alter ego, you know. It's very much, you know, Sean's and a baby as well. And then basically, like, you know, that the character Rhett Millard, who's like the key character in it, he's made up of all the parts of the guys I've worked with in my life, which I admired, you know. So I'm like, you know, Mr. X, he's a really cool looking dude who gets all the chicks, you know. And then Mr. B, he's hard as nails. Every situation we've ever been in, right? Yeah, he never flaps. He deals with it all. And then Mr. S, you know, he's as cool as you like and calculated. He can work everything out, you know. And I rolled all these are all guys I've worked with in the industry, and I rolled all these like personality traits into one. And Sean and I come up with Rhett Millard, you know, and also with the other side, you know, where, you know, struggles with mental issues, struggles with relationships, all different, like, again, taken from myself, you know, the things me and the guys struggle with, so make him like a really, you know, relatable type character, you know. Was in the Paras, went to the SAS, struggles with relationships, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's a great book. It's really fast moving ever, isn't it? You never know where you are with it, you know. And I think even as Sean and I, you know, wrote the book, we didn't even know what was going on ourselves, just added bits to it. It's all over the place, just like real life, really, out in Iraq.
And I did get that sense when I read it, that you were bringing sort of your real life experience through the characters. And I don't know whether that's because I read Long Road to Libya first and then I read Countdown. But yeah, it did reflect that you were really pulling on your knowledge and your experiences. So it breathed a whole new level of life into a story like that. So no, it was really enjoyable and you did a really good job there.
Yeah, thank you. So it's really nice to, yeah, it's very much based on, you know, say my real life experiences and other people's, you know, who I've, you know, know them really well or seen them go through these things. So it's just great. It's just after doing an autobiography, which is obviously 100% truthful, it's great to, after that, to completely let loose of your imagination, you know, and just see what you come up with, even though it's something, is a huge amount of synergy between the two books.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, sorry, Steve, I'm fine.
No, go on. It's all right.
I was just going to say, yeah, about the imagination letting it run riot. And I think that's the nice thing about fiction. You have that breathing space to explore, and you can just, you know, play around with reality a little bit and put a little bit of things that, you know, like false road names or, you know, villages or something, you know, because it's fiction, you can sort of get away with it and that sort of thing. So yeah, I love it. The writing process and everything. It's a nice form of escapism, both the reading and the writing, I find.
Definitely escapism, yeah. And it's just perfect, say, in between Long Road to Libya, then going on to Paras in Action, you know, which is like, you know, the history of the Parachute Regiment, you know, the 80-year history when it came out on the 1st of August was. So it's just, we've just gone literally past the 81st history now, do you know, which, you know, in detail chronicling, you know, everything the Paras have been involved in. So in between that, you've got a bit of like fiction. You can just really relax as you're writing it.
Without giving any spoilers away for anyone who might want to read it, so give us a little bit of background and info about Long Road to Libya, then, your autobiography, if you can.
Yeah, well, that was obviously the first book, and that was, you know, spawned off the conversation with Sean. And it's just basically, yeah, it chronicles my life. Just it touches, again, like most autobiographies, a little bit on my childhood, what I was about as a child and my parents, and in like we talked about a minute ago, why I joined the forces. And then it's a fast moving book. I'm lucky that I've had so many different phases because I'm a person who never hangs around anywhere too long. I get a bit bored. I need more excitement. So because of that, you know, it kind of goes through like joining, you know, the light infantry, going to battalion, realizing at a very young age that wasn't where I wanted to be. The guy in the careers office gave me a complete cock and ball story, you know, why I couldn't join the Paras. You know, got me into his local regiment. But I've rumbled him, you know. I'm very proud of myself. At like 18, when I joined at 17 and a half. By the time I was 18, I was able to stand up and say, I don't want to be here. This is not for me. Nothing against them, but that was not what I wanted. And you know, and to fight for 6 months, you know, when generally, you know, it's like in the forces, you know, when you first turn battalion, just keep your mouth shut and do what you're told. I'm doing the opposite. I'm saying, like, this is not really for me. Let me go. Let me go and pursue my dream. And they did in the end. After 6 months of me banging on doors, they let me go back to parachute training and go into week 6. You know, do you know what I mean? No, and go through the whole process again, which allowed me to fulfill my dream, you know, of joining the parachute regiment. And then it goes through that part. And then again, you know, after 10 years, I get bored, even though little did I know what was on the horizon, what the parachute regiment was going to do. It was quite amazing what they're about to do after I left. But I was lucky enough that I got into the private side of the industry, the private security industry, and ended up operating alongside, you know, the regular forces and the paras quite a lot throughout this time, you know. So working, you know, these high profile net worth jobs in the likes of Gettys and Yaga Khan, and then moving on into Kabul, into Iraq, then doing stuff in Africa, some stuff in the maritime industry, some stuff in the corporate stuff over in the USA. And then Libya kicks off, and I'm the first person into Libya. And then I built a business there, sold a business, retired, bang. Now we're looking for a new challenge again. So that's kind of, you know, long road to Libya.
Yeah. I mean, you sold it to Americans, didn't you? Is that right?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I mean, I've had a lot of luck in my life, but I am a true believer, and I tell my daughter the same thing. Like, if you work really hard and put yourself in the position, there's a good chance you'll receive that bit of luck. Bit of luck doesn't find you in your bed or in your bedroom, you know, or hiding behind a wall or in a safe, cushy job. As we all know, if you take a few chances and put your head above the parapet and take a few risks, that's where the luck is. And luck come to me, you know, that I'd built a business. I mean, it's doing really well. It's one of the only new businesses in Libya. And after like 6 or 7 years, there was an American company who went to a friend of mine and said, like, we want to get into Libya. And he said, I know just a guy. I set up a meeting next to him on a plane over to Washington, met with these guys. And, you know, the personal dynamics was there straight away. We got on really well. We were on the same page. They wanted me to help them build the business. And next thing you know, an offer was on the table and I was able to sell my business, which of course is a life-changing moment, you know, for anybody, which you know, I'm very grateful for and blessed, you know, enabling me to open up the next phase of my life where I have the opportunity then to go into writing and different other things that I'm doing now.
You know, for all three of your books, have you got these published by Pen and Sword? Is that right? And how did you connect with them? Or did you consider going self-publishing, or did you find a publisher quite easy?
There's nothing easy in the publishing line. I was going to look at Emma's face. I mean, so, yeah,
daft question, really.
Yeah, like I touched on. But again, you know, tenacity and that never give up attitude, thinking outside the box. You know, how can you crack this nut, which I didn't even know too much about. And of course, you know, Sian told me a lot about, but even her, she's a professional editor and a writer, but never had books published. That's how hard it was. So I had to find a way through. And Damien obviously gave me a huge amount of help, introduced me to agents, but the answer was always, oh, Jason, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But no. Do you know what I mean? The answer was always no. Unfortunately, you know, we've heard this before. So, you know, really what I did, I wrote the book, Long Road to Libya, and then decided, right, the offers that I wanted were not on the table at that point, a completely unknown author. So I decided to self-publish through a company called Troubadour. But I was really lucky that after that, they kind of, people picked up on it, and Loom Books basically then took it on. So Long Road to Libya as a paperback was published by Loom Books, which was fantastic. You know, had an agent, and that then led me on to. I then decided to we decided to publish Countdown completely ourselves because we then didn't want a publisher to basically be involved in it. And then the complete opposite on Paras in Action, that needed a really good publisher. So my agent Phil Patterson put me on to Pen and Sword, who is a perfect publisher for military type books, and they've done a great job of it. And I've got it out there, and I'm really pleased to have them as a publisher.
Excellent. What are you working on at the moment? So have you got another writing project on the go now?
Because I've done 3 books literally back to back, I decided to take a break from writing itself. It's absolutely exhausting, to be honest. not just the writing process. Obviously, the research for Paras in Action was,
Yeah.
you know, a good 18 months. Then the writing, then the publicity, you know, you got to do, getting the book out in the marketing. Because again, your publisher, they do so much, but they want you out there, you know, pushing it yourself. That's the same with, you know, all of the writers, including the likes of Damian Lewis. So no, I'm taking a break now, and like marketing all 3 books, especially Paras in Action. Really enjoying a bit of downtime. I'm involved right now. Like my daughter's got a new business out. She's a social media business where she supports different companies. You know what social media is like? These people run these big companies. They don't really have a lot of time to do their own social media. So she kind of does their social media for them, logs in for them, collects all the content. So I'm kind of involved in helping her, mentoring her doing that. Her business is called Pap Social, and really enjoying some downtime in my life, and just, you know, spending time with my daughter over here in Cyprus, and playing some golf, and spend some time with friends and family. Yeah.
Have you got any plans to have your books turned into films, Jason?
Oh, I'd love that, Emma.
Yeah.
But no, I never have to do anything ever again. Do you know? I have a huge amount of plans, just like Emma. What actually comes to fruition is another thing. Do you know? It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Do you know? I mean, let's be honest. You know, is anyone going to write a book? You know, or make a film on me? You know, Doubtful Countdown. That's a great idea. You never know. Do you know? So it might come across the right person one day. I would love it, Emma. You know, but yeah, what I plan and want. I can't be too greedy. I've had so many good things happen in my life. If one day the opportunity comes along, then great, I'll grasp it, you know.
You might have to have a chat with Barry Evans then, because she deals with all the screenplays and stuff. And I don't think Terry knows this, or Steve. I introduced Delta recently to Barry, and they had a big chat. I knew they were going to connect. I didn't know when. And they both wrote me like thank you messages to say that it was really good. And Delta can now look forward with an idea of like how to get her books turned into possible, you know, films or TV shows or whatever. And she said, you know, she would love to, she's looking forward to the future of possibly working with her. So it might be an idea to maybe have a chat with Barry and just get a scope of like how you might go through the process of turning your
Emma,
books into films.
that'd be fantastic. I love these connections, how ideas are spawned off conversations. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, it's all of our dream, isn't it?
Touch wood for that. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
If your mate from next door comes up to you and says, I want to write a book, how do we go about it? Give me some advice. What are you going to tell him?
Oh, wow. Do you mean though? Do you know, I try to be super honest with everyone about things, and, you know, try to keep, I get so many messages from people saying to me, you know, I've got a manuscript, will you take a read of it? And then, you know, I want to help people. That's the big part. I've been helped so much in my life. I want to help people. But at the same time, I'm sure Emma will agree with me here. You have, when it comes to writing, if someone thinks, you know, I've got a great idea, you know, I've done something amazing, and everyone has got a story to them. All 5 of us here, type thing, though. But you've got to set people's expectations right. It is hard work, and I try to. One of the first things I say to people is, if you are relying on making a living only from this book, you need to think really seriously about what you're about to do, because I know for a fact I have not made a living from my books. I've made a nice little bit of money, and I'm sure I'll make a bit of money in the future, but certainly not made a living. I was able to take the time to write my books and market them and enjoy my life because of what I've done beforehand and the money I've made, which of course is my story, why I've written the books in the beginning. But for someone just to say, you know, from a benign background, right, I'm going to write a book, the first thing is, you know, just be aware of what you're about to go into. And then if you decide to go forward, you just need to have so much energy. You need to be prepared to have so many doors slammed in your face. And whether you're like, you know, a would-be actor, it's the same thing in the acting industry as writing. You're going to get that door slammed in your face so many times. You need a massive dose of tenacity. But if you have all these things I've just mentioned, then absolutely go for it. You know, believe in what you're doing. Write a fantastic manuscript and then just get out there and market it. You know, get on the internet, find an agent. A lot of people don't understand that going to publishers basically does not work. Publishers are not really interested in talking to authors. The agents are the in-between men. If you get in with the right agent, the agent will sell your book. So that's the challenge for any would-be writer, is to find an agent who fits you, and you got to work. You got to research this and find an agent who likes the type of books that you're doing, who has a passion, a real passion for it, and then literally hunt that person down and get in front of them and show them your passion. Get them to read a bit of your book. They get in like 100 manuscripts a week. You got to send them, a little snippet or something that's going to really grab them straight away and want them to read more and then talk to you and engage with you. I think that's the trick. And if you can do all that, you're on the road, to getting published. Or you just write a book and publish it yourself on Amazon and be very proud and happy with what you've done.
Jason, time's caught up with us, but it's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you. And let's keep in touch if you can.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate the invitation. I love these little chats, and I love the fact it goes out there to people and can inspire people, or they can take something away from it, which enhances their life. So yeah, thanks so much.
I'll be sure to connect you to Barry as well, so that you can have a chat and just get a scope of that, because I certainly would love to see Countdown on the big screen. Definitely. It's so good.
Thanks, Emma.
It's amazing.
Thanks, Emma. It's really kind. And Emma's a great example. Emma's been so supportive, to me over the years. She's always been there, giving me nice endorsements, saying nice things online. So I really appreciate it, Emma. And I'm wishing you all the best of luck with all your books.
Thanks, Jason. Well, it's all true, so that's why it's my pleasure to do that for you. I'm like, these are great books. I think loads of people get so much enjoyment in reading them. So yeah, you've done a really good job. You should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's great. That's 2 great endorsements there.
Yeah.
Near me. Yeah. Anyway,
we can. But for now, cheers. Thanks, Jason.
Cheers, guys. All the best. Bye bye.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye now.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
thanks a lot. Cheers, Jason.
Bye.